Welcome to this University of Southern California Gould School of Law webinar. Today we thank you for joining us to learn more about our experiential learning programs here at Gould. Depending on where you are in the world, we wish you good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Before we begin, on behalf of the faculty and staff at USC Gould, I'd like to wish you health and happiness in these difficult times. My name is Andrew Culberson. I'm the Assistant Director of Career Development in the Graduate and International Programs Office, and I'll be one of your co-hosts today. My other co-host today is Professor Laura Riley. She's the Director of the Office of Experiential Learning here at Gould. Later, you'll also hear from Professor Jason Harper, as well as two members of our graduating LLM class of 2020, Rakesh Reddy and Liu-Yi Yang. Next, I'm going to pass you to our co-host, Professor Laura Riley, to discuss experiential learning. Thank you.
Experiential learning essentially is learning through experience, so practical or hands-on learning. And there are a few different forms of that which we'll explain in more depth. But that is the umbrella term of experiential learning. And we have quite a few different offerings at USC Gould School of Law.
Okay. And here you see the different experiential learning offerings we have in our program that Laura mentioned. So the first category is experiential learning courses. And many of the courses that you can take as an LLM student at USC Gould offer opportunities in class for experiential learning through simulations, through bringing in your own experience. We have the hands-on learning courses are quite impressive and quite popular. The second category of experiential learning offerings includes externships. You'll hear more details on these from Professor Riley, but essentially an externship is legal work you do off campus for which you receive credit. The third and final category of experiential learning offerings is pro bono service and public service. Now, again, you'll hear more details on these later, but essentially this is legal work or related public service work that you do off campus for which you don't receive credit, but it's still terrific for building skills and building your resume. Now, let me first talk about experiential learning courses at USC Gould. As I mentioned, many of our courses include simulations where you are learning from practitioner lecturers whose day job is actually this type of legal work. You're learning from them through simulations and expert critique how to develop these professional skills and how to put them into practice. A few examples of these courses are contract drafting, family law mediation, international arbitration competition, cross-cultural dispute resolution, and there are several more. I want to take the opportunity now to let Professor Harper speak to you a little bit about the course he teaches and the experiential learning opportunities provided there. So Professor Harper, you mentioned before that you teach one of the required courses in the ADR curriculum, cross-cultural dispute resolution. Can you tell us a little bit about the experiential learning involved in your course?
Sure. So the experiential learning that takes place in cross-cultural dispute resolution is interesting from the standpoint of we want the students to bring their experiences into the course. Now, obviously, I talk about the theoretical aspects, the practical skills, and also a few, simulations, such as fact patterns, different scenarios that I present to them. But the really important thing that comes with the class is when the students bring their own experiences into the class discussion and we break down, really thoroughly investigate and analyze the experiences that they had, whether in their volunteer mediation practices or in business with negotiations. And we just talk through the cultural values, the structures, and the cultural perspectives, and some of those things, including potential biases, and through that dialogue, through that examination, we really discuss and the students learn the different values and cross-cultural dimensions that take place on a day-to-day basis.
Thanks, Professor Harper. Now, I mentioned that these courses are taught by practitioner lecturers. Can you briefly just describe the practice that your professional practice and how you bring that into the classroom?
Absolutely. My professional practice is that I am a practicing mediator and I mediate special education disputes as well as workplace and employment disputes. And, you know, I see a number of different, I see, you know, parents and district representatives as well as business people from multiple, a myriad different places. And because of that, there's different styles of communication, and with those styles, I have to be able to adjust and and translate in essence, and not just from a language standpoint, but from a communication style standpoint. And that's one of the things that I, you know, teach to the students and give them the opportunity to practice as well as learn how to, you know, integrate into their own lives.
Thanks so much. And so with that in mind, in your experience, how important is it to pursue experiential learning opportunities in graduate school?
Oh, it's absolutely a necessary. When people choose a grad school, it's they're usually doing it because they want to go into a specific area of practice, and in those situations, one of the best ways that you can learn is by applying and reinforcing what it is, like the theoretical knowledge that you're gaining in class, to be able to apply that immediately in real time in a real world scenario. That's one of the best ways that you could possibly learn and really reinforce some of the concepts that we cover here at Gould School of Law.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Any other parting words for our admitted students on the line?
No, I I hope to see them in my class sooner than later, and we'll have a great time.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Professor Harper.
No problem.
Okay, with that, I send it back to my co-host, Laura Riley.
Great. So I'm just going to first define externships as opposed to internships or volunteer work, which we will also speak about later on in this presentation. But externships are working at a placement at an organization for academic credit. So that requires a significant time commitment, and it's really a good option if you're interested in getting the practical experience at an organization while you're in LA. So we allow students to earn between 2 and 4 units of credit in the second semester that you're attending USC Gould School of Law. And that enables you to spend 1 to 2 days a week at an agency working under the guidance of a supervisor. And then you'll also have a professor, you know, whether it's me or another professor supervising you on the school end. So you have 2 different pathways of getting feedback and different guidances on how to do the self-reflection. And then of course you'll have the experience of being immersed in a workplace in LA. So that's what we offer as far as externships. And I wanted to bring in Rakesh to talk a little bit about his path to an externship that he completed this spring semester. Rakesh, can you talk a little bit first about the experiential course that you took in the fall, and then how that and your application process led you to a spring externship?
Yeah, sure, Laura. As Professor Harper mentioned, there are a few experiential learning courses that will be taught in both the semesters, but to do an externship in the spring semester, you have to do one of those courses in fall semester. So I took mediation theory and practice course in the fall semester that helped me to develop basic understanding of how the mediation works in the United States and how it can help the parties to resolve the disputes without going to the courts. So I took the course in the fall semester, and at the time of taking that course, I had no idea of how the mediation works. So the course taught me from basics. The course used to have simulations from first week to the last week of the course curriculum. It's not just like simulating within us, but our performances were evaluated by professional coaches. Professor used to bring in few of the professional coaches from outside who used to evaluate our performance in the simulations and tell us where we have to develop more skills and what skills we are good at. So in that way, I got basic understanding of how to mediate and how essential it is to develop new skills to mediate in the United States. So that helped me to get a chance to extend at University of California Irvine Ombuds office. And I have to thank to the director, Laura Riley, and also Andrew for making this happen. I got this opportunity through the emails that was sent by the Experiential Learning Office. Uh, there's a good thing about this office and the careers department. They will roll out an email every week that will give you an opportunity to pick the positions, jobs, or externships, anything that you want from the positions rolled out in the email. So you can tailor made those positions to your interests and ideas, and you can apply to those positions or externships. So I did it in that way. I contacted the Experiential Learning Office, I contacted the careers office, and through the emails and everything that they send out, I got to know about this externship placement. So I immediately applied through the careers office. I would like to thank Andrew and Professor Riley for making this happen.
Thanks, Rakesh. And it sounds like, as you described the course that you took in the fall semester, it sounds like you had an opportunity to practice the mediations each week in the 14-week semester. So that's over a dozen opportunities to practice with both your professor giving feedback, your classmates, and then other professionals that they invited. So that's, I mean, that really did set you up for your externship really well. Can you talk a little bit about sort of in those simulations and in the externship in the spring, what legal skills you developed, and then just speak a little bit about the externship itself, where it was and what other legal skills you developed there?
Yes, sure. I extend at the University of California Irvine Ombuds office. An Ombuds office is an informal place where students, staff, or faculty can resolve their conflicts or any issues that they have. It's a confidential, neutral, independent, and impartial organizations. You can find, many of the universities across the United States has such office, which helps their students, staff to not run out of time and not run into litigations anymore. So they can solve their any issues internally within the campus and in a good manner. The legal skills, a basic mediator, the basic mediation skill is to have active listening and also proper communication of what you heard from the client or party. So during the simulations, we used to do it very differently. Like 1 week we used to be mediators and the next week we used to be parties. In that way, we stepped into both the shoes, like mediator and also the client. As Professor Harper mentioned earlier, the simulations were not stick to only one point. We used to do different simulations. Like 1 week we used to do it with small claims cases, the next week with domestic abuse, and the next week the neighbor relations, etc. So the course had a good curriculum which helped me to develop basic understanding of all the disputes and how to mediate between those disputes. It also helped me to understand the perspective of parties as well. When I was acting as a party, the coaches used to tell us how the parties may react and how we should control them, or how we should manage the mediation process in total. So that's where I learned that active listening and proper communication were basics that a good mediator has to develop. So in the placement, during the externship, I said the supervisor that I would like to develop these skills more. It was not like the course didn't help me to develop those skills, but in practice it is somewhat different. So I said the supervisor that I need to develop these skills to develop a practice in this field. So that's what the externship did to me. I was able to listen actively. I was able to understand the internal and undisclosed interests of the parties when they are speaking to us. So I did few cases independently under the supervision of the supervisor, but it helped me to develop these skills. And at the end, by the time the placement concluded, the externship concluded, I developed good skills in listening. Like I used to narrate the story they said to the party, and I used to disclose their unidentified interest to them. So they used to say, yes, this is what we want today, or this this is exactly what I could not tell you to help me. So that's what basic mediator has to contain in his skills, developing active listening skill and also able to communicate to the party what he needs, even though the party did not know what he wants. The mediator has to know what the party wants. He should extract the party's every detail, and he should a, make it in a proper way, so, like that the party understands what he wants today.
So it sounds like you were able to transfer what you learned in the fall into a real life setting in the spring. And one thing that you mentioned that I just want to reiterate is that, you know, as part of the externship, we work with you to identify goals for the semester. And it sounds like, Rakesh, you had good conversations with your supervisor at the Ombuds office to sort of figure out what your work could be to make sure that you accomplish those goals. One last question for you is, how do you see this year, and then maybe particularly your externship, setting you up for your next professional steps?
Yeah, actually, the externship helped me a lot to develop personally and professionally as well, because personally, when I was practicing back in India, there was only one way of practice, like litigation, but now it is totally different. There's other way of dealing the cases. It's like mediating between the parties and between the clients. So I learned that skill. So if it is a small case, or if it is worth it to mediate between the parties, then I'm ready to jump into it at any time. So I developed this skill. And also, mediation requires a lot of patience and a lot of hearing. So I developed those skills, which I think may help me in the future.
Great, thank you, Rakesh. So I'll hand it back to Andrew to talk a little bit about the types of externships that our students participate in.
Thank you, Laura. And thanks everyone for remaining with us. So right, as Laura mentioned, there are many different types of eligible employers for externships, and each of the employers that would fit into categories on this list offer different pros and cons, or different types of skills, and a diverse professional legal setting in which you can develop those skills. So you have the opportunity to find externships in in-house legal departments at large companies here in the LA area, state governmental agencies. Now we have a little note differentiating state from federal positions, where frequently only US citizens are eligible for federal positions, but there are many, many legal externship positions available in state and local government agencies that our students have taken advantage of. There's a large community of legal NGOs, legal service providers in the LA area as well, providing a range of practice areas and population groups for you to work with. Law firms are an option for externships for LLM students. We have a little asterisk just to make a note that JD students aren't permitted to work with law students per ABA rules, and some students have heard of this, so it's frequently a question whether or not LLM students are permitted to serve in an externship at a law firm? And the answer is yes. If you can find it, there are externships available with law firms for LLM students. The final category are ADR service providers, these being the alternative dispute resolution service providers in the LA area. We have many not-for-profit service providers that provide mediation, dispute resolution, arbitration services for the community, and there are several for-profit ones as well. And again, each different type of placement, each different professional legal setting offers a different variety of skills in a different context, a chance for you to develop these skills. And Laura and I both, Professor Riley and I both work with you extensively to determine what the best experience is going to be for you. So even if you can't find an externship in the exact type of practice area you're looking for, we'll help you identify an externship that will help you develop the skills that will prepare you for that next step in your career. And here are a few examples of these externship placements. We've got two columns, one for our general LLM program and other specialty LLM programs, and another one for our ADR programs. So you'll see there on the left column, there are several There are entertainment companies that are represented. The LA County District Attorney is an example of a local government agency. We've had students extern at the Public Defender's Office as well, so the other side of the courtroom in criminal court proceedings. Premier International Law Group is just a general law firm. So there are a diverse array of potential experiences for externships there. And on the ADR side, you can see another government agency, the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. This one is sometimes limited to U.S. Citizens, but with externships, they're often a little bit more flexible. The University Ombudsman offices, of which Rakesh gave an example at the University of California, Irvine, just a little ways down the road. The Asian Pacific American Dispute Resolution Center offers mediation and other ADR services, focusing on our Asian language speaking populations here in LA. FINRA is the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, and they offer arbitration and mediation for disputes arising out of securities transactions. Very interesting to many of our students, whether they're in business or in ADR. So you can see this is just these are a couple short lists with examples of externship placements and just a really broad array of interesting experiences that they can provide you. And with that, I'm going to swing it back to my co-host, Laura.
Great. So as I hinted at earlier, we have pro bono and public service opportunities, so volunteer opportunities that don't require as robust of a commitment as externships. So these opportunities don't get you academic credit, but they can help you develop certain legal skills, give back to the community, get to know the community around USC School of Law. And also, if you are preparing for the New York bar, to sit for the New York bar, that bar exam does, or not the exam itself, but admission into the New York bar does require 50 hours of pro bono work. So these are all opportunities that we organize in order to facilitate you having these opportunities. So the difference between pro bono and public service is that pro bono is strictly legal work, while public service can be any sort of community service or volunteer work. So as part of your orientation, an optional part of it is a public service project. So typically we organize for a group of students who are interested, it's not mandatory, to prepare food for people experiencing homelessness and get to know a little bit about our neighbors who might have less fortunate circumstances and give back that way. We also organize winter and spring break pro bono projects. So your winter and spring breaks are over a week long. So we select a week of each of those breaks to create week-long pro bono projects. So students who want to participate commit to, donating their week to an organization and then getting a lot of legal skills in return. So you're paired up with a supervising attorney at an organization. This year we worked with the Justice Collaborative, which is an organization that focuses on criminal justice reform work, Betzetic Legal Services, which is an organization that has a lot of different legal services that they provide, and our students work specifically on conservatorships. We also worked with Raíces, which is an immigration organization based in Texas. So some of these organizations are actually outside of Los Angeles, but within the United States, and the work is done remotely. So some of the work can be done on site, and some of the work can be done remotely as well. So we had a lot of students actually go back to a different, travel within the United States or go to a different country during the break, but they were still able to do some of this work remotely. So students who completed that did about 30 to 40 hours of pro bono work during that week, and oftentimes they really enjoyed it and then continued on as later on as well. We also have a pro bono database, which is a spreadsheet of organizations and contacts of supervisors, where you can, once you sign up, you can log on to this and view it. And Andrew and I both meet with students to go over what type of pro bono opportunity you're interested in. So if you're interested in, working on immigration issues, or if you're, working with Holocaust survivors, or, there are such a range of opportunities in the LA area, so we can work with you to figure out where the best ones are to apply. And usually the application process is really straightforward. It just means reaching out to the contact that we've identified and letting them know your interest and availability. There aren't, pro bono opportunities in every legal field, so it's not so much in sort of the business and transactional space. It's more focused on litigation and topics that legal nonprofits and non-governmental organizations work on. But we try and sort of help you identify what types of opportunities will help you develop the skill sets that you're interested in focusing on, and that will sort of help set you up for the next, for your own next steps. Andrew, anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, actually, we have another guest who I'm going to have describe her experience, and I think she can add to this discussion here. Thank you, Laura. So we have Lu Yi Yang here on the on Zoom with us, and she has an internship lined up for that has already begun, but is really going to begin in earnest in July. So Lu Yi, do you want to tell us a little bit about the agency you're working with and what you expect to be doing?
Hi.
Hi, we
I
can hear you
think
fine.
the
Thank you.
agency is called Asian Pacific American Dispute Resolution Center, and my experience so far is I attend the training session provided by them in March, and it's the training session is divided into part. It's online and in person. I attend the in-person session in March and take the online by myself. The in-person classes was taught by some very professional instructor in APA DRC, the organization, and they are very nice. We learned the process and strategies, the way of the mediation, and we practice with the instructors and other students. I think I benefit a lot from it.
Thanks, Lu Yi. Can you tell us how you found this placement in the first place?
Yes. At first, I heard that we can participate in the UCLA job fair, so I draft a cover letter and a resume by myself, and I send it to the GIP Career Center, and you guys helped me to review and provide me some very useful advice. So I did some modification for my cover letter and resume. Then I submitted through the UCLA job fair, and luckily I got the interview invitation. And then I turned to you for practice, the mock interview practice. And after that, I go for the interview, and I got the offer.
Great, thanks for describing that. So I just want to expand really quickly on the job fair you mentioned, the interview fair. So Lu Yi attended an international LLM interview fair at UCLA. It's one of two interview fairs that our students have the opportunity to attend. The other is in New York. Both are in the spring semester, and these are interview fairs that attract employers from all over the world, and they're exclusive to international LLM students. So thank you for describing your experience, Lu Yi. Could you tell us a little bit about how you expect to benefit from this internship placement with APA DRC, what you expect to do and how you expect that to help your career?
Yes, in this center, we call it APDRCS. We work as mediators, and we provide mediation service when there is conflicts in the community. I think it's a good way to help others in the community and also practice our legal knowledge. I think this is a very good start point for international students because we need to improve our skill of communicating with others, and we need to know how is the American cultural. And in APA-DRC, we need to communicate and interact with different people. So it is a very good opportunity to know the culture and know how to communicate with the natives in the community. And also we draft a lot of documents and agreements after the mediation. It's also a good way to practice our writing skill.
Excellent. Sounds like it's going to be a very helpful placement for you. I'm glad that worked out. Thank you very much, Louis, for your contributions. That brings us, everyone, towards the end of our presentation here. Again, I want to thank our guests, Professor Jason Harper, Rakesh Reddy, and Louis Yang for joining us. We've got the chat open for questions, and I see some of you are already starting to add questions there. Thanks so much. We'll keep that open for at least a couple of minutes, but if questions keep coming in, we'll keep it open as long as we can. So again, on behalf of my co-host Laura Riley, on behalf of our guest speakers and the rest of the faculty and staff at USC Gould, I thank you all for joining us today. You are all admitted students at the USC Gould programs, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you on campus very soon. Stick around and ask questions if you like. I'm also going to add some email addresses into the chat that will be helpful. And Laura and I both, I think, can start answering some of the questions in the chat. One that I see here is more likely that we'll land a job if we do externships. I think I would broaden the question to, are you more likely to find a job if you take advantage of some experiential learning opportunities? I think the answer is yes, that what experiential learning provides you in the job search process is the ability to demonstrate that you've exercised your legal skills in practice in the real world, and that you have some experience in a U.S. legal workplace. And those are two things on your resume which will really stand out in contrast to other applicants. The other potential goal of an externship or an internship is that you can acquire a local letter of reference, a local professional reference. So your supervisor at the externship or the internship, if you do well and you impress, can be someone who would serve as a reference when you're applying for jobs locally. So there are lots of benefits. It's hard to quantify, but there are absolutely benefits in the job search process to externing during law school. Okay, let me back up a little bit here. So Raphael asks, how likely is it to find a job on the West Coast, studying on the West Coast? Perhaps maybe you meant find a job on the East Coast because you referenced the New York bar. How does the job market look for international companies and law firms? A degree from USC. That's okay. Thanks, Raphael. So, yeah, this is a common question, and again, we can't put numbers on it. It is true that not every student who comes to USC intending to work afterward finds a job, but almost all of our students who intend to work for at least that 12-month period after their studies end, so what's called optional practical training. I won't go into the details here, but there's a way that you can extend your student visa to work after graduation. It offers up to 12 months of work authorization. We have some details on that on this on our website, and I'm happy to answer questions by email rather than go into it here. But students after graduation tend to be able to find a work experience for OPT. Now that can be paid or unpaid. So it kind of depends on what your parameters are. If you were willing to accept an unpaid position, which could be great for developing your legal skills and great on your resume, then you are much more likely to find a job for those 12 months of work authorization that you have. Paid positions do exist, and graduates do find them. The market for international LLMs is probably a little bit more robust in New York, just because it's been growing longer, but it is definitely growing in Los Angeles as well. Okay, I'm going to take these in order. And Professor Riley, if you see one that you want to answer, feel free to jump in, but I'll just keep going. I see one from Tuyana asking if ADR students can apply for externships and arbitration practices at law firms. You can certainly try. It would definitely require some impressive networking. So arbitration practices at law firms are understandably rather sensitive areas. Law firms tend to be the advocates in this process rather than the neutrals, right? And they are they very carefully guard the interests of their clients. So it's certainly possible to find an externship with a law firm as part of their arbitration practice, likely attached to a particular senior associate or partner with whom you've cultivated a relationship. And it's certainly something I can talk to you more about when you're here. Another question from Vidit Deswal. How is UC Gould School of Law reacting to the COVID health emergency? How is it going to impact the start of the program? I won't be able to comprehensively answer this question, unfortunately, because so much of that is changing. I could summarize how we're reacting and what we at this point hope the start of the program looks like. So for spring semester, unfortunately, classes were all moved to a virtual environment, so classes were moved to Zoom. This did not impact, this moving to a virtual environment did not impact bar exam eligibility for any of our students. We, along with most of the law schools in the US, went to a pass, no pass grading system rather than a letter grade for spring semester. Almost all of us staff are working remotely. So the law school itself is largely deserted, but the activities have continued in a virtual environment, and many of the same activities that you would have seen in person are going on. Unfortunately, the commencement ceremony was canceled due to COVID. That would be a large gathering that just wouldn't be safe. But we are having a virtual commencement and hope to hold the actual commencement later on when it is safe. I know there are so many different aspects to the answer to this question. I'm trying to highlight the most relevant ones. The university has organized several emergency funding sources for students. The university is still providing housing and has adjusted housing for students to comply with state government regulations on COVID. So the university is reacting in a very thoughtful and robust way, I would say. Now, as far as the starter programs in the fall, right now the university has not changed the start of the plan for the starter programs. So it may happen that the start of programs in the fall must be virtual, right? If the state of California still has shelter in place or social distancing regulations in place, classes may have to start in a virtual environment. We don't know the answer to that yet. So right now the plans haven't changed as far as the start of the program. We will certainly keep all admitted students up to date. There is a website. If you go to usc.edu, you will see a banner across the top of the page, and that has a link to our COVID-19 updates website. So you can find, if you click on that link, you'll find answers to lots and lots of questions. And there is a section for admitted students as well. So the information you're looking for may not yet be there because we just don't know the answer yet. But you can please continue to look back there, and when I'll post my email address here. You're welcome to email me, and when we have the information, we'll post it there, and I'm happy to get it to you.
Actually, Mr. Culbertson, and this is Jason Harper. If I could actually speak on that as well.
Yes, of course.
I can't speak highly enough about how USC Gould and USC as a university has responded to this COVID-19 pandemic. I have to say that they have been extremely proactive and highly communicative, and sometimes overly communicative with how they have tried to prepare not just the professors, but also the students in the shift to online learning. I can't even count how many webinars they've offered just to make sure that everyone was prepared. The level of support that I've seen the students get, that they've spoken with me about, has been phenomenal. I would just say that USC has been exemplary in their reactions to all the different changes that have taken place since the state of emergency was declared, I believe on March 13th. Yeah, it's been very exemplary. I can't speak highly enough about it, including the work of Mr. Culbertson and the rest of the staff at USC Gould.
Thanks so much, Professor Harper. Appreciate that. It's always nice to hear someone else's experience of it. And I'm really glad that it's been helpful for you. I've been impressed by the university's reaction. I've been on staff at the university for about 1.5 years, so I still feel like I'm in a position to evaluate the way the university responds to big events, and I'm also very impressed. So I'm going to move on to unless someone wants to chime in, I'm going to move on to the next question. This is from Betty. What job prospects are available to an LLM? Oh, wait, actually, I'm sorry, I skipped one. Disha, I skipped your question. What are the job opportunities if I have not yet appeared for the bar, still prepping for the bar exam? I'll take that in 2 parts. If you're preparing for the bar exam, we strongly advise against working. If your goal is to pass a bar exam and acquire a license to practice law in the US, we recommend that you dedicate 100% of your time between graduation and taking the bar exam, which is in a normal year offered at the end of July, to studying for that bar exam. So you'll hear that from us when you're here for your LLM. You will hear that message from us over and over that we don't recommend that you work and prep for the bar at the same time. That would be consistent. But to the important part of your question, what job opportunities are there for you if you have not yet passed the bar? You are in the same position as everyone graduating from an LLM everyone who's taking the bar exam that year, that they're looking to work and they're still waiting for their license, for their law license. So the bar results typically are not released until November after the July bar exam. So there are several months before you know whether or not you passed, and there are probably a few more months before you've completed the extra requirements for the particular state in which you're looking to be admitted. And during that time, there are several types of job opportunities. Probably the gold standard is you interview for an associate position and you are hired as a legal assistant or law clerk with the understanding that you'll be promoted to associate upon earning your law license. So that's what everyone's going for, because you obviously can't practice law until you have a license. Now, many also seek out paralegal jobs and legal assistant jobs in their own right, and some students will serve in those jobs for several months while they're still looking for an associate position once they have their law license. So I hope that's helpful. But there are essentially legal assistant, law clerk, and paralegal positions available. Okay, if I may, Professor Riley, I'm going to turn it over to you for a few of these questions.
Sure.
Folks, I'm a stay-at-home dad during COVID-19, so I have to attend to a child issue for a second, but I'll be back as soon as I can. Thank you very much.
Sure. So let's see. I might skip around the questions a little bit. Just there's some questions I know the answers to better than others. So let's see. So the next one is, what job prospects, this is Betty's question, are available to an LLM privacy and cybersecurity student in terms of externships? So the good news is that, all of the externships are open to you. In other words, most employers are happy to receive your resume and application regardless of the particular specialty or path that you're taking. A couple that are specific to that area of interest is, one student recently was at the district attorney's office, so our county prosecutor's office, which is one of the largest county prosecutors in the country, in their cybersecurity division. And she had a really positive experience there. So that's one possibility. The other possibility is, like Andrew suggested, is networking and trying to get into a law firm. So because you're able to extern both at law firms and governmental organizations, you could also apply to work at a law firm as well. So with any type of externship, there's certain externships that are sort of more direct, the application process, whereas others, what's helpful to do is to speak to me and Andrew on an individual basis to figure out, okay, well, where do we have alums that work at these firms that you can reach out to? And, in the LA area, we really have alums at every law firm. And so that's a really great way to reach out to specific practice areas if you have a certain area of expertise that you want to develop, like privacy and cybersecurity. So that's one area. Another possibility is doing an in-house counsel or corporate counsel externship, because, and this is not true of all corporate counsel positions, but some in-house counsels do have privacy and cybersecurity specialists or attorneys who focus on that. So some of the tech companies do. So that's also a possibility as far as the type of externship. Let's see. So I am not as familiar with the details about the job fairs. That's something that Andrew might have to answer. I know that, I believe though that most of the positions are positions that are offered in the US. And so one is in New York and one is in LA, and it's hosted at UCLA, which is just a quick drive. And so for more information about that, if Andrew isn't able to come back on, you can email gipcareers@law.usc.edu, and they'll give you a bit more of a sense of what types of jobs are available at those two different fairs. One other question that came in is about being able to take 2 certificates, classes, and bar classes combined for a 2-year LLM program. So you are able to pursue 2 certificates and bar classes if you're in a 2-year program. So one thing that's really helpful is that the Career Office and others in the GNIP office are advisors to help you figure out how to balance the types of workloads that you need to move through the semesters. So you have a cap of 15 units of academic credit per semester. So it's just a matter of figuring out when you want to take different classes to sort of balance out both the requirements for certificates, which some of them are overlapping. So depending on the types of certificates that you're pursuing, it can be easier or harder, to fulfill 2 certificates. And then bar classes as well. So it's certainly possible. It's just something that I would suggest you talking to one of the counselors in your first semester about, so that they understand your goals and that you can sort of plan out what classes you're hoping to take. And Sarah's question about, are externships usually paid or unpaid? We only permit unpaid externships if you're taking it for academic credit. So they are unpaid. And you receive academic credit for them. So who should I email about questions relating to externships in a specific field of law? So I would suggest emailing Andrew A. Culberson at law.usc.edu. He and I work together with GNIP graduate and international program students. So you can certainly email me as well, but I think usually he's sort of the first person that you would speak to about externships and any specialty areas of interest that you have. And then we have a response from Lee, who participated in the New York Job Fair. That's great. Lee, do you want to say anything specifically about the New York Job Fair?
Yes, I think I participate the NY Job Fair too, and as a first, they asked us to fill submit some personal information, like where are you from, and I put China, and then I got some there are some Chinese law office provide positions, because I think it's based on people's location or their origins. So I think if you are from other country, if you are from Europe, maybe there are more Europe opportunities for you in the NY Job Fair. And for me, I put China, and I also got some more than 10 employers from Asia and Europe.
Okay, great. And then you got your internship through the UCLA Job Fair, right? Do you have anything else you want to add about that experience?
Yes, I think it's easier for USC student to attend the UCLA job fair. I haven't got any invitation from the NY job fair. Maybe that's because of my poor resume and cover letter at that time. After I got 0 invitation from NY job fair, and I turned for GIP Korea Help Center for help, and they reviewed my resume and cover letter, and then I go for the UCLA job fair. I think I got some I got useful advice from you, and that's why I got the invitation, the job fair in the end through UCLA. So I think if you really want to find a job, it's better for you to start to prepare for it as soon as possible. And it's better for you to ask help from the Korea Help Center in USC.
Thank you for that. That's helpful. And it's a good reminder for me to add too, that once you enroll, we have what we call a portal. So it's a password protected website that you can dial into. And we have, the GNIP office has templates for resumes and how they're structured in the US, and also cover letter templates. And that way you can do a draft on your own. And then, like Louise said, you can bring it to the GNIP careers and they will go over it with you to make sure it's reflective of your interests and sort of in line with what the employer's expectations are, which will hopefully help you sort of have a leg up in any applications that you send out to these job fairs, or also to externships as well, which most externships do require a resume and a cover letter. So that's something that you have support with as well. Okay, well, I think those are all the questions that I see coming in. If you scroll up a little bit in the chat session, you'll see the 2 emails that you can reach out to, Andrew's direct email or the GIP careers at law.usc.edu. If you send to that email, quite a few people will see it at once, so it'll probably be quicker to get back to you. So feel free to reach out if you have any follow-up questions, whether they come up today or throughout the course of the summer. Please let us know. And if you are coming from a specific country and you want sort of country specific advice, please let us know. For example, Rakesh he said that he would be happy to counsel students specifically who are coming out of India, and we have students from across the globe. So please do let us know if you have any specific questions or want to be connected to a student or any specific area of interest. Thank you all for spending some time with us, and we look forward to meeting you and speaking with you this summer and then in the fall. Take care, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.